Well, uh, 9th of the 12th, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. Hope we're all happy at something. Of course, lots of news to go through. There are bits of news that I'm not going through because it's just there's tons, and I'd be here all fucking day. But let's start with the Cumbria coal mine. So it was greenlit yesterday. What I've been seeing a lot of, and I think it needs to be pointed out, a lot of right-wing Egypts. You've got the likes of Lee Anderson and all of these stupid people keep saying along the lines of, I remember Labour fighting to keep the coal mines open. This is an attack that's being levied at everyone who doesn't want to do a new coal mine because, saving the planet. What I fear is these people do not comprehend time. And we do need to set every single one of them, because we need to start treating people more honestly. We think that we're unwilling to believe that people are this stupid. And I think we turn that around, automatically believe these people are this stupid. So you have to deal with the likes of Lee Anderson by, first off, gently making sure he understands the concept of time. If he understands that and he proves that he can understand time, then we can start discussing other things with him. Because until he understands time, just the simple concept of things happening at different points, ever, then there's no discussion to be had. So with him, with all of these right-wing client journalists, all of them, gently make sure they understand childlike knowledge. Make sure they've got that, and then we can actually start dealing with them. We've also got for the fourth year in a row, Ofcom have flagged the comedy genre at risk at the BBC. Ofcom have only assumed responsibility of oversight over the BBC in the last 5 years. So 4 of the 5 years they've come out and said comedy's at risk at the BBC. Specifically the television comedy, which includes scripted commissions from the BBC comedy department, sitcoms, sketch shows, and a small number of comedy dramas and archived documentaries. Doesn't include panel shows or stand-up shows such as Live at the Apollo, which are exclusively commissioned by the entertainment department. This is comedy, arts, and children genres, all considered at risk due to continuous decline in original content and money invested. This is something close to my heart. I'm a comedian. I do want to see more comedy. As we've seen over time, there has been a decline in the amount of original new stuff that comes out. And it's a big problem because culture is remarkably important for a functioning democracy. If we're not putting enough money into it, culture doesn't move, doesn't improve, we don't learn, we don't feel, we don't engage as much as we could do in the past. And the BBC I'm not even sure what's going on at the BBC. Well, I can guess if you have a look at the BBC Trust, you tend to find a lot of people with connections to Tories, and they do not like culture. Even the culture that you think that they do like ballet or opera, they're not fans. They're not fans at all. It just makes them feel fucking smug to be there. Continuing with the BBC, the Director General, Tim Davie, has said that the BBC is preparing to shut down its traditional television and radio broadcasts to become online-only service in the next decade, which is dumb as dishwater. It is fucking maddening that this is the plan for the BBC. He said that the BBC was committed to live broadcasting, but said Britain should be prepared for closure of many standalone channels and radio stations by 2030s. BBC could become another online content provider like fucking Amazon Prime or Netflix and all of this fucking bollocks. Abandoning its traditional broadcast slots on things like Freeview and DAB radio. So BBC TV and radio are seeing a decline. This is one of the things you're seeing a decline, because although older people continue to watch BBC and whatnot, younger people tend to watch YouTube with people playing computer games, and humanity should end tomorrow. So you've already got CBBC and BBC4 have been moved to online only, with more channels expected. This of course is going to affect the old people, poor people and people in rural areas will be affected most, with Davey also said that the BBC needs more money from the government or there will be further cuts to the World Service output. The BBC World Service is one of the best soft power instruments that we have. The fact that the government isn't doing everything it can to keep it where it was, and you have a look and you see China and Russia are putting more and more money, hundreds of millions of pounds, into their state programming, into their state media to spread their view across everywhere, whereas the BBC World Service was at a point where it connected the fucking world. Anyone from anywhere could fucking listen to it, and it really brought us the soft power needed to be able to not only just be respected, but to be at the table when a discussion was there. The continuation of a destruction of a BBC will remove any form of power that we can wield in the world going forward. And it's a continuation of my belief that the Tories hate everything that is British. Anything that we have to be proud of, the Tories want to get rid of it. There is no patriotism in anything that the Tories do. Anything that the fucking right wing, listen, the left wing are not patriotic at all. They're proud to not be. The idea of not liking Britain is a sense of moral superiority for them. But the right are actively destroying. And the problem is, like you say right and left, and they're not really concepts anymore, how they were beforehand, but the Tories especially, and the likes of our media, Daily Mail, Sun, Telegraph, you know who I'm talking about when we do that. They want to destroy anything that we have a semblance of being proud over, because they do not like it. The government has announced what it describes as one of the biggest overhauls in financial regulations for more than 3 decades, claims that it will cut red tape and turbocharge growth. Yeah, turbocharge growth. We're fucked. We are absolutely fucked. It is psychotic to do this. 2008 wasn't that long ago for us to think, fuck it, we'll do it again. It's like fucking Jurassic Park 2 at this point. Rules that forced banks to legally separate retail banking from riskier investments will be reviewed. This was brought in after 2008 because you can't trust banks. You can't do it. They were the main reason that we had the crash. That was it, with their fucking mortgages and the risk and not having enough fucking money behind them, where we had to give like £137 billion to bail them out. The bailout cost us an estimated 36.4 billion. That's the money we didn't get back. We gave them 130 odd, and we got back 36 billion. That, of course, was a lot to do with the Tories selling banks back, Lloyd and whatnot, for nothing. That it should be once again remembered that one of the reasons that we had a mass loss on the bailouts was because when they were sold at a discount to their friends. More corruption, constant. The cap on bankers' bonuses have been scrapped. Rules governing how senior financial executives are hired, monitored and sanctioned will be overhauled. This is just a race to the bottom. Who can fuck up the quickest? If you look at anything, regulation is very good for industries that can fuck you. It's incredibly important. Don't trust people. There's no point in trusting companies. They've got no soul, and you can't even put them in prison. You can't arrest a company, which is one of the fundamental problems you have with company corruption. You can't arrest a business, and the people who are in charge of it tend to be able to find a way to slither away and not get done for it. Regulation is important, especially for the likes of banks. We've already seen what happened. It's not even... They're coming out. I remember when Labour were trying to stop coal mines getting shut. But you can't remember 2008. You remember Thatcher, but not that. Sexual harassment on the streets will be made a crime, with jail sentences of up to 2 years. So wolf whistling, catcalling and staring persistently will be criminalised in England. Sexual harassment, of course, is already illegal, but what the hope of these new offences will it will encourage more people to actually report it to the police. In other news on the police, another Met police officer has been charged with 2 counts of rape. So that's very difficult for a woman who, I mean, you've got what, 2/3 of women don't feel safe as they're walking home alone at night, which is madness. It shows just how fucked we are, this continuation of constant progression, that we are the best generation that's ever been. We're not. We're not even fucking close, quite frankly. It is ridiculous we're still at this point. I've said before, if you wanted, the first thing I would look to do is all men have to wear bells. Just all men have to wear bells. Sure, we'll all feel like we've got fucking tinnitus, but at least at that point, women will know when we're coming. So they'll be safer. That's the start for me. We can all walk around, if we want to act like fucking clowns and creeps, dressed, we all should have to be forced to dress like fucking jesters, bells and fucking whistles all over us, like you do with a cat who you're never sure is going to creep up on you. Couple more stories. Pharmacists are reporting a shortage of antibiotics, and they have urged the government to act, but health officials continue to say that there isn't a supply chain issue. Pharmacists across the UK say that they're struggling to get hold of antibiotics such as penicillin and amoxicillin, which can be used to treat strep A. We've got an outbreak of strep A at the moment, but the government is saying there isn't a problem. According to the Association of Independent Multiple Pharmacists, some patients have had to travel over 20 miles to get their medication. Health Secretary Stephen Barclay says there isn't a problem. So we're at a point here where pharmacists are saying, I am seeing a problem. And the government is saying no. So ask yourself who you believe at that point. The UK is to announce this is the final two stories, and they kind of go into each other. The UK to announce a raft of fresh sanctions against individuals in 11 countries, including Iran, Russia, Mali, and Nicaragua, targeting those responsible for acts of torture, sexual violence, and repression of its people. Good news, really good news thus far. Foreign Secretary James Cleverly has said that the UK and their diplomats will stop being commentators and start using the clout of UK sanctions to wield influence on the world stage. Good news. Good news. We have to do something. I like this from James Cleverly, saying it's about time that we stopped just saying stuff and actually started doing stuff. We need to protect people. Human rights are important. In other news, the new inquiry by the Council of Europe's Commissioner for Human Rights has said that the UK has an increasingly antagonistic attitude towards human rights that is weakening instead of strengthening protections for the public, with the language used by MPs and officials to describe lawyers could be putting them their lives at risk. The Police Crime Sentencing Courts Bill and the plans to repeal Human Rights Act having a very chilling effect on the rights to protest and the rights for individuals. So do not forget, James Cleverly, quite rightly, saying we need to do more to stand up for human rights. We need to hold those in Iran, Russia, Mali, Nicaragua, the people who are repressing people. We need to fight them, but not in this country, because fuck human rights here. As always, I do not do the weekend because I'm going to fucking relax, or tomorrow I'm going to watch the football. So I hope you all have a weekend where you can find something worth smiling over. I shall catch you on Monday.